Flipping heck. It's another episode of Bob, and in this episode I'm going to be battling with the body frame alignment. If you like this kind of stuff, then give me a thumbs up, and if you don't, give me a thumbs down. If you want to tell me why, comments down there. If you want feedback on the video, comments down there. If you want to contact me, Church House Classics, it's all one word, at gmail.com. And if you fancy donating to the channel, or buy me a pint, then there's a PayPal me link thing scrolling down here. Anyway, thank you very much. Enjoy the video. Driver's door's on. Piece of piss actually. I haven't done any of the welding yet, but what I wanted to do is to check the gaps, leading edge, trailing edge of the door. It needs a shim to bring the door this way, a shim I think really, but we're talking about 1 millimetre in it. The catch works, and what this now allows me to do, really, kind of the key reason for doing this, is first of all to check up alignment with the sill down here. So when it goes in, if I push it with my knee, you can see that it's aligned up down the seal edge here. That's all pretty good. It's a little bit too tight in down there, but again, not a huge issue. I can move the hinges, and I might do that in a second, but the idea is that the door roughly fits. Now we haven't done, the royal we haven't done fuck all with this door. As you can see, it's still quite badly challenged. The panel that I had in Devon, not going to lose that chalk mark up there. The panel that I had down in Devon, I salvaged from a scrap door. It was actually a passenger door. It's here. Come off a Bahama Gold car that's been black at some point. You can see it looks like it's been off-road because it's covered in dirt and shit. However, even though it is a passenger door, let me just lay it on the floor down there. Even though it's a passenger door, I need to kind of take this edge along here and those bits down there, and it'll fit on there. I'm fairly confident of it. So all I really do with this is I'll just cut it along this edge here, right along there, and I'll splice it in. I think it'll work. I do think it will work. There we are, never chuck anything away. Obviously one of the ribs is okay, the other one has disappeared, so what I'll probably end up doing here is kind of take it from there up to the end and do that piece, and then this piece I'm going to have to make up a piece which I will weld in, just join it in, and it'll work. Obviously do all this lot while the skin is off. It shuts, look at that. Okay, it's a bit of a skinless door at the moment. Right, next thing I'm going to do, because obviously I've been working on hinges for quite a lot of time. You see the front inner wings and everything are off. This is all really to facilitate me finishing off this A-post, or getting this A-post ready so that I've welded it onto the sill and I'm not going to warp it. So what I want to do here is, that's all solid up there. I'm going to go over it with a hammer because a lot of this edge is actually, pretty solid. There should be a lip that runs along there which goes up to that, so it actually just needs a tiny cut there, and put the double skin lip back onto it, the mud trap. Or what I might do is just weld this lip straight onto that panel there, because I think once it's all in place we're going to be alright, and then it's just a case of making this piece up that goes right the way down to the bottom. That's more or less where it starts to curve in, and again the idea of having the door on here is I can see the profile it needs to follow. Okay, this line down here is just a bloody great big line of pigeon snot from the work that the previous owner did. So once I've got this structure secure, then the bulkhead can come out. I'm going to get it painted, and similarly at the back end here I can now see the angle that I need to take this piece down with, weld it onto the sill, and fill all these closing pieces in, put the arch on the back. These bits need to fold back, and then the arch comes down and onto there. It's a lot easier. If I just tack things into place, roughly tack things into place, it becomes a lot easier to weld this thing when it's on the bench. I'm trying to find a metal bender who can make me up a couple of meters of that. My metal folder is about 1 foot long, and it's just going to end up being a ball's ache. If I've got someone with a decent sized metal folder, and just get those lengths made up, then this D-post section can come off. I don't want to start disassembling everything until I know it's really kind of in the position it needs to be. I've got this D-post section. I've also got the top rail to do up here. So I've got the piece that I bought off the interweb. There's actually two pieces off the interweb, which is, you know, sort of wrapped up. You can see I've been putting sterling board up as well. It's going to be bollocks corner over here, I think. But obviously moving Bob over to here does restrict access somewhat from Haggis getting out, but Haggis needs Bowes levelling strut and brakes sorting out and other odds and sods. It's a bit down at the back at the moment because I've been working on the back axle. But that will be back on four wheels, brakes bled very, very, very soon. And this is the priority at the moment. So I'm pleased with that. I'm going to get a few tacks down here. I'm going to put a few tacks on that piece there because that's good enough, really, I think, at the end of the day, to hold secure the inner wing to the tailgate. I'm not going to worry about putting the holes inside here. I just think that's kind of like, it's not going berserk, but it's heading down the road of kind of concourse and that sort of stuff. That's not what this car's going to be. Yeah, right, I'm going to crack on with this. That's an empty brand spanking new fuel can, by the way, but I will move it. It's silly to be welding when you've got a fuel can in the car. I bought that because David's car, the Polo, was running some very stale old fuel. And then the other thing I want to do here, I want to get the rear cross member off at some point and work out how I'm going to be able to bring that back by 3 or 4 mil. And I think that's fairly straightforward. In fact, you can see how much it needs to come forwards. That much. There we are. Okay, I've been welding the rear inner wings up and bolting them up to the goal post here. The objective here is so I can get this whole side frame off in one big lump. I found a chap around the corner that's got a metal folder, so hopefully we'll just be able to replicate this profile for the entire length. I can spot weld it on. Playing with Paul's spot welder over here. It's actually not bad. It's for a very used unit. It works quite well. Don't worry about this gap here. That's part of the goal frame, which I'm going to sort out. Now, I've managed to sort out the gap here. At the moment, the body's too far this way, but I can sort that in a moment. But basically, the gaps now are, so when you look down this sheet of metal here, which is still twisted very slightly, but it's going to be straightened out in a minute, that goes straight down and welds onto the back of the rear cross member. You can see I've cleaned all the transport powder coat, whatever it is, shit paint off the ends here, because you can't weld through it. And again, looking nice. Just need to push the body that way a little bit. I'll check it out with the boot floor again, which is sitting patiently over there. Just make sure everything is aligned before I go berserk. But I think it's fairly obvious. In fact, it's just maybe, there we are. Just do that with the body. There we are. It's gone perfectly where it needs to be. So I just double check that everything is square down the sides before I clamp that. But I'm going to start this afternoon on the goal post. So again, welded the rear wing. Not my best welding. I had some real struggles with my welder. And I've had to go through and just double check absolutely everything on it, and it started working again. So I don't know. Maybe there's a problem with the regulator on it. Anyway, I was having some problems putting the slugs down. Here's my test piece here. First of all, a lot of brown soot on it. But you can see here, look, big nipples on the pieces. And I wasn't able to do anything at all. Then obviously we got very, very, very high current welds, too much power. That one was about right. I was happy with that one. That was power 2 on my welder and about 3.5 on the wire speed, because of course it's not measured in centimeters or meters per minute. And that's, I found out why. Just going to drop that loud. It's because when you change the power setting, this machine automatically updates the wire speed accordingly. So, as I found out, when you're using power 1, 2 on the wire speed is somewhere between 1.95 and 2.37. Machine seems to speed up, even speeds up when there's no load on the rollers. I think that the motor on this thing, it just takes time to warm up, which is annoying. Need more consistent wire speed, Richard. So on power 1, setting 2 on the speed, call it 2, On power 2, 2.5, power 3, 4.2. Exciting stuff, eh? I know how to keep you guys riveted. Right, so and then the other thing I was going to do with the goalpost was using the top hinge holes. I'm going to put a coach bolt through there and a big piece of wood across the inside so I can brace the top of it so I know it's in alignment, and then when it comes off the car to go onto the bench to be welded up properly, I know exactly the lines I'm working to. Don't worry about dents like that. I'll be able to knock most of that dent out, but as you know, there's a big cover piece that goes right over that section there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it with that. I've had the outer wings on, they do line up. Obviously the door you see go on. I haven't done anything with this A-post yet, because I've ordered up the bottom section for the A-post, and I want to see how that fits before I kind of take the side frame off. At the moment there's too much flexibility in this area, so I need to weld on the A-post and the bottom section to see if I can do it easier and quicker than I did on this side. I found my big box of bits that I thought I'd lost. Sorry guys, walking around the workshop quite a lot today. Where are they? There they are. So these are the closing panels that go in on the bottom end of the wheel arch. I've got a pair of those, DDS. So they'll go in. That again will connect the wheel arch up to the end of the sill. On this side I'll weld it, on the other side I'll bolt it, because we're going to have an electric fuel pump on this thing, and I would imagine the electric fuel pump will sit on the outrigger there, like they do normally. Unless I put a plastic tank in this thing, but no, if I put a plastic tank in, then I've got a problem with the filler. And I want to have it, so it'll be a steel tank, and it'll have an external fuel pump on the outrigger there. You see I've got the damper mounts and everything in place. There's no Bose on this yet because I haven't got the springs in place. Once I get all the body frame off and in paint, then I'll put the springs in, I'll put the Bose in, I'll finish the chassis off, I'll make sure everything's attached to the chassis, and we'll be able to kind of have a full rolling chassis with all the brake lines and everything on it. That's next week. This week, getting this body frame finished. Putting the rear quarter panels back on, because it kind of dawned on me before I go too berserk with this goalpost. I don't actually have a reference point for the goalpost meeting the lower the bottom cross member, bottom for now. So I've aligned up the original rear quarter panels with the original holes. Just screwed them in for now. A pair of those. I'm going to get the outer wings out in a second. First of all, I need to finish off welding this up to here, then I can put the outer wings on, and we can just double check that this entire rail is going to be below the line we need it to be at. I'm still going to need to faff around a little bit with the amount of space this aperture's got. I've got a couple of screen rubbers and I've got all the glass and stuff, so it's going to be a fair amount of trial fitting before I put the window ledge on, but I think it's more or less in the right place. The only thing we've got here is obviously that bit there is just sitting a bit proud, and that's totally in the wrong fucking place, so I might even take the D post off for now, because now I've got the inner wing bolted up. I don't actually need the D post in place, so I can unbolt that and just make life a little bit easier. I've just been clearing all of the holes, the factory holes down the B post here, so that I can screw the outer wing in place. And what I do is, obviously I can't use the original outer wings because they've been chopped up, but I can use a pair of wings that are destined for this car, because then obviously I can just make them fit, and that will make life a lot easier. You can hear the weather's turned most inclement. I need to put some guttering up down the outside. This is how I get distracted. I need to put some guttering up outside, you see, because the problem is the water just pours off. Right, crack on with that now. Things are starting to line up quite nicely. I think once that's all been pushed into place, that will line up there. Just needs a bit of a cold chisel just to persuade it into place. If I undo these screws here, actually that's probably too tight there, because that needs to go in. I can see that now. That's nice, that's easier. And this was in a lot better position. Again, just needs a tiny bit of percussing just on that corner there. I mean, there's a fair amount of give on this inner wing anyway. You can see how much I'm pushing it. So there is a fair amount of give. The idea is to get it so it fits the outer wing. I've ordered up the cross members to go across the boot floor, so there's a couple, 3 of them in fact. So get the cross members in place, and once they're in place, then I know that I've got the dimensions all correct. The early bolting anyway on these early cars. Right. God, didn't that close nicely? Didn't actually close. Right, wings line up. Gaps down that edge look reasonable. I'm not entirely sure yet, because it's optical illusion, I'm sure, as to whether that B post is slightly in or not. I mean, obviously there's no door skin on it. On the other side, similar kind of weird sort of appearance. It could just well be, because the thing is mounted properly, it could just well be that these wings, because they've got a certain amount of kind of do that and it looks good. It lines up. So I just think really there are some optical illusions involved here. I haven't got a driver's door with a skin on it, so I'm just going to have to loosely attach a skin to this one, tape it on or something just to give me the datum points. But it went onto the original holes there, so we know that that is accurate, and it's gone onto the original holes at the back here. So the worst case scenario is that the back end of the car needs lifting slightly. Well, I'm doing all this before I weld the goalpost back onto the cross member. So it's just a case of, it seems like a lot of work, and this has been a lot of work really getting all these out and getting them all attached and on the car. They're all going to come off again. But it's not bad. I mean, again, you can see here, this just bows right out, but when I push it in, it looks a shitload better. And I think that's all it is. I just think it needs to be manipulated slightly. It could well be that these original holes here are just a couple of millimetres out. So, good news though is this rail here, the top rail here, is in alignment the entire length, and on that side too. So I don't think it is bananaed. I just think it's one of those things that just looks a little bit odd, because in fact you can see there that I didn't manage to correct that, because that piece there should be up against there. So we've already got, what, 5 or 6 mil there, half a fingernail, that the wing is too far out. So I'm going to adjust that. On this side we've got a bit more light. Again, you can see similar sort of challenge. I'll have to look and find out how this piece is treated on the original, because basically what I've got as far as the D post is concerned was spot welded on to this piece, and I don't think this piece was original. I think that they just unspot welded the D post on and then welded it onto this, which is all a bit of a shambles. It could just well be that if I take this piece out, then it all goes and lines up beautifully, and we don't have this bulge out here. That's the bulge there that I'm talking about. I can push that in, you see. When I push that in, the top line looks good. Similarly here, because it needs to line up with the tread plate underneath. And I can put that on with a couple of screws and just make sure that I'm absolutely spot on with the alignment of this thing before I start getting all tickly with the welding sticks. I haven't even got welding sticks, I've got welding wire, but you know what I mean. Really worthwhile exercise doing all this kind of lining up and lining up and lining up, because I've got the inner wings too low. Now, it's not a disaster, because all I need to do is to drill new holes on the L section, on the back of the goalpost section, because basically when I get the tailgate as low as it will go, we're that much too low on the inner wing, which would explain why it looks like a banana. Okay, so that's been a couple of hours of attaching panels. Obviously from here on the outer panels up to the top is good, so all I really need to do now is take these back wings off, obviously take the tailgate. This is a junky tailgate, because I've got that tailgate there, which is a beaut, isn't it? Look at this one. Exposed handle, a lot, but it has the later holes here. I didn't realise there were two different, completely different hole patterns on the tailgate hinges. I knew that the later cars like mine had the spring which sat in between the hinge down here, but I didn't realise that the hole pattern was different as well. That's crazy. Anyway, so that's that one. This one is an early one, as you can see here. This is 1980s one, but I've actually got a new old stock one. It's a shame that this one is got a different pattern, so I can either, because this one's actually really good shape. Look at that. It's a perler, isn't it? I can either get some later hinges and not use the springs on them, or I can use the new old stock one that I bought the other day. Anyway, I'm going to get this thing jacked up, so what I need to do really, I'm going to leave the tailgate attached, I'm going to take the back wings off. Once the back wings are off, then I can push the tailgate up into the right position and get everything all lined up. So you can have a watch if you want. We'll time lapse it, shall we? There's Mr. Tripod there. Look at you. Hello, Mr. Tripod. Let's attach Mr. Tripod on. Hours and hours and hours of fun in the workshop. This wing here, by the way, it looked like it had an absolute fucking gargantuan amount of filler on here, but it's actually literally just filler over. And it looks like they've actually put filler over the corroded aluminium, because I was able to polish this back quite easily. Now, there is a dent there. You can see the dent there. So I'm not going to go too far on this. I'm going to consult with my body shop man first of all before we go absolutely fucking ape on this thing. But let me get that sorted out. You'll probably find when I lift the back end of the car up that it all kind of miraculously pops into place. Right, time lapse I think. Well, that's better. Right, you've seen there really, case of getting the tailgate up into the right location. I'd need to nip up the body mount still, but I've got the tailgate now to line up with. Ignore this gap here, it's because this panel's bent on the inside. It just needs to go that way a little bit, but the gap at the top and the bottom is good. So it's just a bit of twist there. This is the original D-post cover. Had a fucking great big dent there, which I've managed to percuss out just by doing that, and I reckon it will get away with a skim of filler. I'm going to replace these because although they've got all the pegs on the inside, someone drilled holes through all the corners, which is a shame, but they are original to the car. So there's that one. On the inside, let's go inside, I managed to get the inner wing to line up with the top of the outer wing, and I've drilled a couple of holes through here and up here as well, just so I can screw the captive plate on the outer wing. Although it looks like it's bowing out at the bottom of the wing there, it is bowing out. But if I put you there, there's a tread plate that goes along there and holds that in level, and that holds in level. And there's no real, although it's springing out a little bit, I think once the mud flap is on the other side and the tread plate is on, that's going to hold that beautifully. So I'm happy with that. The gap down the edge of the door is enough for me to work with shims, and it's been screwed back on using the original holes for the wing. So that's all okay. Everything lines up there. It's all quite good actually. And on the tailgate, you can see we've got the swage lines up across there. Now we're getting to the problem areas. Okay, so first and foremost, it's not pulled in tight enough. Don't worry too much about that just yet. We can sort that out in a minute. The biggest problem I've got on the passenger side is that the inner wing is a mile out. So I think what I'm going to do here, I need to take the outer wing off again. I think what's happened is in my welding of the arch, I've got some distortion in this area here. So I'm going to take the inner wing, take the outer wing off, pull this edge up, because it's in the right place, pull it up, and then get it to line up with the top of the outer wing. And I think we'll be okay then. As you can see at the front edge, it lines up beautifully. Here, it's good. I'm happy with that there. It just gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower as it further it goes back. So I know it's not the bulkhead. I know it's not the tailgate. I know it's not the outer wing. It's basically just where the inner wing has dropped down there. Okay, got to get it right, you know. It's pointless if we're not going to get it right. And otherwise, the danger is that when I get the box section, which is visible on the inside, where the screws go through to hold the outer wing, it's going to be like that wide at the back and that wide at the front, which is no good. You can see here it's just simulated the box section. You probably can't see actually. Simulated the box section there, just with a bit of the old trim panel. And also you can see now that the tailgate, sorry, the goalpost is now parallel. Okay, there's a big dent there. It is parallel to the edge of the cross member, which I'm happy with. Okay. There's a little bit of faffing around to go on with just making sure the panels all eventually line up. But what I've done is gone for the midpoint on the post there, midpoint on the post there, measured from here up to the top of the frame, both sides, compared with my car, compared with other cars, and I'm happy now that everything is in the right place. Interestingly, on this side, the bolt holes just did up again. No real issue at all. And I think the problem was that I had allowed that lip there to drop down rather than to sit above the rear cross member. There's a nice little mud trap there, which I don't think I did on the other car. And there's a reason you know it's a mud trap, is because it's that height basically. It's that height. It's just a wonderful mud trap for mud to sit on top of the rear cross member. There's a fair few out there. I have cleaned all the transport paint off the top edge of this, but as you see, I've just screwed the floor section down. Obviously, we've got the floor width is good. This is the other original outer panel D-post cover. And again, you look here, all the posts are on the corners of the trim panel, and then someone decides, well, no, not good enough, I'm going to drill through. Never mind, shit happens. Another couple of holes on here have appeared. This bit might not be any good, we'll see. Look like localized holes. And you can see also that again, with no effort whatsoever, we've got a reasonable gap here with the door skin. I'm not sure yet we're going to be able to use this door skin because it's dented there, it's dented down here, and I've got a feeling that really I want to see a big dent here. That skin should be coming out a lot further, so the skin might be no good. Make a good wall decoration though, wouldn't it? I've got too many bloody door skins I'm going to use as wall decorations. That, I just took that off because there was an enormous amount of bubbling there, and I just wanted to find out how badly damaged the aluminium was underneath. And I just think someone had painted it and there was moisture on the aluminium when they painted it. This side, I've got exactly the right amount of gap there. It's nice. Don't fill them up with silicone, folks. It's been a long day to get to that, but now I know it all lines up, I'm happier. Really, the next step is going to be to weld a big plate in there so it goes directly straight down and onto, and I can put a couple of braces in there so that when I take the goalpost off I can finish off the welding on the bench. I'll be happy with it. This isn't the tailgate that's going to go with the car, by the way. This one's, I didn't want to be knocking around the tailgate, the good tailgate. The tailgate's a tailgate. Although not always, as I've found, because I've got one that would appear to, all the parts to be a later tailgate, but it's got an exposed handle. It's an anomaly. I've been talking to Tim Hammond about that one. Weird. See, on this wing here, I can see there's a bigger gap at the bottom than there is at the top. It could just be, there's a bit of movement in there, you see. Once the bracket is welded on the inside and the screws are properly done up, I think we'll be okay. And again, that big bulge on the wing there, it just holds in. No real force. It's just because the number plate, what are you talking about, Richard? It's because the mud flap brackets aren't in place yet. Quite racy without the D-post covers, aren't they? They look better with it. Oh, the fun you have unbobtailing one of these things.